All right, we call the meeting to order. Commissioner Weiss, you need to pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, good morning, everyone. If there's no additions to the agenda, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Next, we'll open the meeting up for any public comment. Does anyone wish to address the commission this morning on any topic that isn't on the agenda? Out there online or on the phone? Nobody in the room, we'll move on. First reading of the following ordinances.
Ordinance 286, an ordinance amending Title IV, second revision, Brown County Ordinance as amended, to rezone certain described property filed by Lauren and Julie Fleece to go from Ag Preservation District to Mini Agriculture District.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 286? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
Move.
Motion by Gage, second by Dinger. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Ordinance 287, an ordinance amending Title IV, second revision, Brown County Ordinances as amended, to rezone certain described property filed by Jared and Sarah Bierman to go from Ag Preservation District to Mini Agriculture District.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 287? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
Move. Second.
Motion by Dinger, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Ordinance 288, an ordinance amending Title IV, second revision, Brown County Ordinance as amended, to rezone certain described property filed by petitioner James Smith, owner as Thomas Johnson, to go from Ag Preservation District to Mini Agriculture District.
Is there anyone here to speak to ordinance 288? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve.
Move.
Motion by Gage,
Second.
second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, we will deal with a previously postponed issue, and that is to vacate a plat in the Old Pro addition, platted by Stacy Gossman. Good morning.
Morning.
Do you want to visit with us at all, Stacy?
No, I'm just ready. You guys all heard what I had to say. I appreciate it.
So the way it's presented to us from planning and zoning, if we approve the vacation of the plat, it takes it back to the original plat,
Correct.
the way I'm understanding.
With the road, but going back to me.
With the right-of-way going back to you.
Yeah, that's gravel, yeah. All the way up to my lot line where my lot line was before. All my lot lines will go back to the way they were before.
But the easement will remain.
Easement on the pipe going across my property, not on the road. There is no easement on the road.
Is that correct, Scott? I thought there was an easement for the right-of-way.
There was an easement written up 30 years ago on that easement for that storm sewer. I don't have that paperwork with me that I gave to the commission, but...
Only the storm sewer, not the right-of-way?
It was all the storm sewer.
I got a copy of it right here.
Robin, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, we believe, you know, and I haven't looked at it that close, and Stacy may have more paperwork or more information. The information we had was the city put in, that roadway back in the early 90s. That was right when I started. So they were building that road from 8th Avenue going south, through the backside of Twin City Fan. And that was part of a deal that Twin City Fan required of the Development Corporation back at that time for an access easement. They needed backside access for deliveries and some of those things. And there was a requirement that the city build it and maintain it. We believe that easement does exist, but Stacy may have more paperwork on it than I do, and maybe he's had...
Where's the maintenance been?
We have bladed it over the years. Well, it may not have been in the period of time since you owned it, Stacy. I don't know. But the bottom line is that the city did invest in that, and we believe there's a process to allow the vacation to take place without taking the right-of-way out of that. So you would have no lot lines with the exception of a right-of-way. That would be the process we would suggest. The concern that we would have, and there again, it is not going, this would not be something that would be city right-of-way, this would be county right-of-way, not city right-of-way. But it does tie into stuff that happens within the city. There was a thought process 30-plus years ago that there was a need for that. You know, and Stacy platted it that way, and, you know, we were thankful that he did.
Yeah, right. You guys took all my
Mr.
water, you took my
Gossman,
water.
Mr. Gossman, if you have something to say, come through the chair, please.
Yes, sir.
We felt that it was the responsible way to go about it. We don't have a compelling reason to say, you need to do this. But there is a process to allow it to happen. When there's a plan to maybe do something different, then we'd say, go ahead and vacate it at that point. But there's nothing to compel you to do it right now other than just to vacate. There's no real reason to vacate other than just to get rid of it. And so we'd say that there is
Can I say
better
one thing?
reason to hold on to it because there is an easement there that does exist, we feel. And if, you'll do what you need to do. You know, and we trust that.
Stacy?
You don't have an easement on the road, it's right here. Stops right where the lot line is, right where the road starts, and it curves over on the pipe. It's right here on this, Ronnie's Way addition plat. My lot line is on, my east lot line on the north side of on the south side of 8th Avenue. East side, my lot line is over 20 feet past the road, where it comes out on 8th Avenue, and it's 30 feet past the road where it comes to my property line on the south side. That has nothing to do with the road. It has nothing to do with the road. And if you look at the wording in there too, their wording is way off too.
Mr. Bader?
When this easement was created, there was a plan for Norwood or Northwood Street to come through from 6th Avenue to 8th Avenue. When they installed Milwaukee Avenue, there was no curb cut to have a future apron or driveway there for that street. When the hospital was built, they built that through that street. When the Mutual of Omaha was built, they built that through that street right-of-way area. In that easement, it did say that they did not, we want to make note that they did not have permission from the railroad to have access going across the railroad, and they wanted that to be noted. So, as far as the street right-of-way going through, it's not gonna line up, it's not gonna happen. And when they put in their storm sewer for drainage, there was originally an easement. And then they platted that storm sewer 30-foot wide as an H-plat, and it took away that easement off of that storm sewer when they platted it. So, that's what I remember from that paperwork.
So there's no longer an easement? Is that what you're saying?
I do not,
There never was an easement.
my interpretation
pipe.
is that there is not an easement at this time
For the drain pipe?
for the road.
For the road, okay.
Okay, I will point out, there's one spot here that does become more clear to me, and it says, it's an agreement for easement, it's a recital. It says, the easement will allow the city to place a storm sewer, which Stacy has indicated, across Cutler's property within a 66-foot right-of-way of extension of Norwood, if it were to extend north, as it is shown more fully on Exhibit A. After the installation of the storm sewer, the city will grade and compact the soil in at least 30-foot width roadway within the 66-foot right-of-way for a road running south from 8th Avenue to the railroad tracks. To
But
me,
in
that's
that
pretty
first
clear.
paragraph, it says, if that roadway were to be installed.
Yeah, and I'm saying,
And
this
I'm
says
saying-
after the installation
And
of
you
the
haven't
storm
taken
sewer.
care of
that
it, you haven't taken care of that, you haven't even put no dirt on top of the pipe. The pipe
Northwood
is- the
Street
pipe
has
is
never
showing
been
through
put
the-
in, or the
it's
curb
showing through
cuts
the
or
dirt.
anything in 30 years. So that's my interpretation of it.
Do you know when I bought that property, that the manhole cover on that storm sewer that they installed wasn't even put on? Can you imagine if a kid was over there? Can you imagine that? And whose fault would that have been, huh? Yeah,
We're not-
it
we're
would've
not-
been mine, 'cause I own the property.
We're not dealing with a manhole cover here, we're dealing with the vacation of a plaque.
So, there are questions. That's my point, okay? You've got an attorney, in the state's attorney's office that's dealing with it. I think he has advised you, and, we'll let you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Go ahead, Tyler.
Has the city or you, Stacy, has anybody, I know one of your arguments was the business decision aspect of it. Has anybody since this plat was made, have they made business decisions based off of this road being there?
I have, yeah.
But I mean, the Development Corporation, anybody else aside from you?
There were decisions made by Twin City Fan at the time to allow deliveries to be done through the backside. I think that has
Can I
since...
say one
When he
thing?
dedicated it, or before?
No.
No, that
before
was
that.
before. All right, now here's the deal. I called Twin City Fan myself, and I tried to make a gentleman's agreement, just like I tried down here the last 3 times that we've been here. I said I'm not gonna close that road down, and my word's good. Just like I told with those guys over there. They run 100 semis through there a month. If it tears up my road, yeah, I want a little help. Other than that, did I ask for any money? No, I didn't. And, you know, I mean, as far as me going, I mean, we wouldn't have an issue right now if they wouldn't have backed out what they said they were gonna do and took away my water and sewer. That's why we're here. Otherwise, I lost a $1.1 million building because they gave me the water and the sewer and all my curb cuts and everything else, and you have no idea what I've lost.
I get that, and it was
And I'm coming, by the way. Yeah, you heard
We
me?
did not find an easement documented in the Register of Deeds office for that property between the gravel roadway and Twin City Fan for them to drive across that property daily either. If there was some sort of agreement, there's no easement that we could find.
I've even talked to Twin City Fan's lawyers. I was in Sioux Falls down there talking to their lawyer. I had a conversation with a lady from Minneapolis on the phone. That's their lawyer. They both agreed that road, when I bought that property, was mine. They had no reason to even, they should have been, hey man, we'll help you take care of that road. Yeah, I mean, that would have been the gentlemanly thing to do. That's what neighbors do. Me and Swede right next door, we get along great. Me and Eilers, we get along great. That's what neighbors do. You don't fight.
So when it was, excuse me, when it was replatted, when you replatted it, then that right-of-way came off the tax rolls, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, it sure did. But the only reason I did replat it was because I had investors lined up. Now I lost my investors. Now I want it to go back to the way it was, because I'm not gonna lose 1.5 acres of my property and lose my investment at the same time. Not doing it. Well,
Go ahead.
I asked Gene about this, back taxes, and, because you haven't paid taxes on it in 2 years, and he said we can't tax him on property he doesn't own.
I'll pay the back taxes on it, but the only reason I didn't pay the taxes on it, because I dedicated the road.
Right.
I dedicated the road because of the simple fact that we were gonna use the property. I got people right now that wanna buy that property. You know, so it's probably gonna be dedicated in the next year or two anyway, but it ain't gonna be dedicated now. I won't do it now.
So you've been approached to sell some of the
Oh, yeah.
property?
Oh, yeah. You betcha.
So you won't maintain the right-of-way?
No, I will not. Not until, why would I do that and lose 1.5 acres of my investment? When I've already lost a $1.1 million lease because of, stuff that others, I mean, I've got paperwork in here, with signatures on it from some people. Yeah. That they just all of a sudden make a phone call, no, you can't do that. After they already give it to you. Is that right? Is that fair? Is that right?
If memory serves me correctly, a couple weeks ago, when you stated if this happens, your intent is to maintain that right-of-way.
No. I'll let people cross it just like it was before. I never had no trespassing signs or nothing like that on there. I was the one that maintained it and everything. I've never kicked anybody off of there. I had a kid over there the other day, Toby he owns a mowing service here in town. He was out there looking at deer, trying to find deer sheds, and I let him. You betcha. Why, and if, like I told you, if Twin City Fan needs that road, use it. Well, you're gonna help me maintain it too. Wouldn't that be the neighborly thing to do?
So can we get an easement drafted up for that road
No,
then?
not right now. I will not do that. I want it to go back to the way it was. And then we'll talk.
Okay, but if you wanna say here and say that others can use the road, that's great, and I'm not questioning what you're saying, but if I was that business, I would want assurance that
Well,
I can legally be
then,
there.
I'm not gonna do that right now, no.
Because if it's private property,
It is private property.
you could say one way or the other, but technically, if it's private property, unless they have express
I've been here for
permission,
30
they're
years.
trespassing.
I've been here for 30 years, and I have always kept my word if ever.
I'm not
ever
talking
done.
about you, I'm talking about the law.
I understand
The
that,
law
but what
is
I'm
the law.
saying is the
What
gentleman's
if you
agreement,
sell the
gentleman's
property?
agreement.
What
Huh?
if you sell the property and
Exactly, I
somebody
want the
else-
property to sell.
I
I
know,
want
but
the
what if
property to sell,
gets
lease,
sold?
rent, whatever.
But
I want
the
the property to
property's
make money
sold.
off of.
If the property's sold in a year from now to someone else, and they say, no, it's my road, it's my property, no trespassing, then we've got a problem.
Well, are you gonna compensate me for putting that easement on there?
Are you gonna pay your taxes?
I'll pay I always pay my taxes, go over there and check. See if there's any taxes I've never
So you
paid.
did. Well,
Well, then why did you question me just
the
like that?
last 2 years on the road is what we're
Well,
talking
did I owe taxes on that road in 2 years?
No.
Did
but
I?
now you're
Okay then.
asking
All right, well then
for
don't
money.
ask me a question
How
like
come
that.
how come you can't sit down in a chair?
Because I'm so full of,
I've got people over here talking and you're flipping through papers. It's so distracting because you can't sit down.
I'm not gonna sit down, dude. I'm sorry. I just want my decision made, please.
Go ahead,
I
Mike.
got no
Make a
problem.
decision.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
I was just curious, how, so it was replat, I can't remember, was it 21, 22, somewhere in there that we replatted it the way it is now, somewhere in that ballpark?
Yeah.
So what was it prior to that?
It was.
Because I'm wondering, because I mean, there was a road there.
It
Was
was-
it private property prior to that then?
Yes, it was zoned, residential, I believe, wasn't it?
When the road was installed, Cutler's owned the property, and the city didn't purchase anything for that roadway, and then that was sold to Ron Wagner, and the city didn't purchase anything where that roadway's at. It stayed private property all the way through, and when he bought it, it was private property.
But they did get an easement for the drainage for consideration.
There is no easement.
right
It's an
there.
H-plat.
The agreement
When
is-
the
the agreement-
H-plat was platted,
Right,
it takes away the easement on top of that plat.
okay, but that's dedicated specifically for that drainage.
Right, the
for-
H-plat.
For the $25,000 consideration, with the additional information in there about the intention of obligations for that piece of property. Which, someone else has put improvements to put that road in, which gives them some standing. Exactly what, I guess, is not for me to determine, but some standing about that property. Because Cutler's specifically intended that that was gonna be used for a road.
Or they specifically had an agreement with the city that they were gonna purchase it. We don't know.
Doesn't say
It was done
purchase,
during
it doesn't
Grand
say
Branch.
purchase, it doesn't say purchase, it says dedication in that document.
Well, it says for Northwood Street,
Right,
but
but it's clear that it
That
was
was
intended to
washed
be
out.
that strip for that purpose, and it says the word dedication.
yeah.
And it has since been dedicated and platted.
And there's reasons why it was dedicated and platted, and we all know what those reasons are.
I'm just saying my interpretation of that whole easement, there is no easement, because things weren't followed through from what was intended. It's just my interpretation. I can't give you legal advice, that's just my interpretation, based on my experience in reading that easement. They do have an H-plat that was platted over the top of the pipe that did have an easement previous to the plat.
Right.
May I say one more thing now? I have no problem with people using that road, like I said, and it's gonna get, it'll get, dedicated, just not now. I just don't wanna dedicate it now.
But you won't send a document to that effect.
What if I sell it? That's what I'm saying. My whole deal is the way, and this has nothing to do with it, and I don't even wanna bring this up, but this is the reason why that we're here, is because of situations that were caused by a different office, which is just to the south here, called the city. I understand that, but it has to do with me, Mike. It doesn't have to do with you, but it has to do with me.
So would you be willing to sign the document stating that it will be dedicated, and that will be stipulated in the sale to whomever?
Not without compensation, no, because I'm selling a 10.44 pieces of land, a piece of land, and if you dedicate that road out of there, it's gonna come down to about 9 acres.
It's already been dedicated, and that's
I
why we're here.
understand that, and that's why we're here, and that's why we're here right now, trying to vacate it, because of the simple fact that nothing was ever done with that road. So we're gonna go, I mean, with the vacation of that road and that property.
Tyler, go ahead.
That's why.
I know this is a crappy situation for you, and at the end of the day, the road was platted. You might have gotten hosed over after that, but I don't think that makes it right for us to hose over whoever might have bought property or sold property or designed things or developed things or had made plans, engineering plans for stuff like that. And now, because you were wronged, we now go back and wrong the next person in line. I'll be voting no because of that.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
Any further questions? Is Ross out there? Ross? Just a question.
He's barely out there.
I know you were hoping
Far
to
away,
stay out of it.
yeah.
In your opinion, is there an easement for a public right-of-way there for the road?
We're not here to litigate whether there's an easement or not. I'm not gonna give an opinion on that.
Okay? How about the pipe?
There's an easement agreement, what it actually covers, I don't know.
Okay. I'm just asking because that's gonna help me make my decision.
I mean, eventually, the agreement's between whoever gave the easement and the city, that's for them to fight about, and this isn't the place to do that.
Right. Okay.
I guess I'll make a comment.
Go ahead, Drew.
So, I guess comment, I don't know if you want to turn it into a question or if I turn it into a question, but for now, a comment. Going back to the exchange that we had a minute ago, I guess my concern, if you say, you can use, you tell Twin City fan they can use it, great. I don't think you're gonna come back and say, no, you can't use it. But if you go ahead and sell it to whoever, and you sell, say, the piece along the road, they take ownership of the road legally, and they come back and say, no, it's private property, it's only access for us, we don't want Twin City or whoever else
You
using
know,
it.
there's two other
Then-
things too, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I didn't mean to go ahead.
Well, at that point, then Twin City can't use it.
Am I
Or whoever
landlocking
has-
Twin City fans from using their property? Am I landlocking anybody over there for using their property? No, I'm not.
But if you sell land, if you sell the
I didn't-
beginning of that area,
That's the whole thing. I bought that for the specific part to keep that piece for myself. I wanted to build a house there overlooking the creek there. I'm not building nothing. Nah.
that's fine.
Next Saturday. I just won't.
That's fine. I'm analyzing a scenario in my head where a piece of that gets sold and access gets cut off. Not by you, but by somebody else. And that's kind of the concern I have, is that that's been dedicated for the public use. And you say, like, you're not gonna sign an easement without compensation. And I don't disagree with that as a business decision from your standpoint, but who's gonna pay for that? You know, is it gonna be the county, is it gonna be Twin City fans, is it gonna be the development corporation, the city? I don't know.
I don't know either.
So-
I know it won't be me.
I know that right now it's being used for the public good, or,
Yeah, and they can use
You
it
know.
for the public good. That's fine.
right, but like I said, there's a scenario in which the future would maybe allow that not to be used. So that's where I'm struggling right now, is that road is there, it's been dedicated, I'd like to see that continue, but that's the concern I have, is that private property rights are private property rights. And so if that becomes private property that's not dedicated for the public use, the owner can say...
Can I say one
legally-
thing? But what
They
you
can't
really should do is go out there and pay attention to how that road is laid out, because on the other side of the road, on the east side of the road, there's 30 feet over there. I'm supposed to give that up too?
Well, I've looked at the plat.
Well, look at the,
More
that
times than I can-
plats don't say what the property says. Go out and look at it. And where they put that pipe across there, do you know that within 30 feet over to the west, there was a natural flow right down to the creek? They could've used it, saved a shitload of money too, by doing that. But they didn't. And I put cheese on things for a living, everybody knows that. But I'm telling you right now, if you look at this paperwork, it comes down, doesn't have nothing to do with my part of the road. It has to do with the section line, which is on the pipe, which is on the east side of the road. And I guess I'm ready for a decision. Nobody's getting landlocked.
Go ahead, Mike.
Question. So what allowed Twin City fan to use the road prior to him buying?
agreement, really.
Which agreement?
There was
The
no agreement.
1993 agreement, the intent behind that was ADC set up a deal with Cutler's.
Does it say it in here?
Yeah, it says the 66-foot, no, well, I
Does it
know what
say
the
Twin City
intent was.
Fan in here? Does
I
it
know
say
what
anybody
Fran
like that?
Brink, I know what Fran Brink told me in 1994 when I started, because the city, I'm wondering why the city was out doing this work, investing money. And he said, we've got an agreement with the Development Corporation to do this, and that was part of the deal for bringing Twin City Fan in. That was part of the intent. I can't tell you whether all the agreements were followed through after that, but that was the intent of the agreement at the time.
So that would have been the easement that would have covered it up until it was,
That's why the 66-foot, right, what they contemplated, the 66-foot being developed, 30-foot in the center, that was that access for Twin City Fan.
The property on the east side of this current right-of-way, the Aberdeen Development Corp. owns, and Twin City Fan employees can still come in that same approach on 8th Avenue and drive across that property to get to the back of their property, or they can go around the south side of their existing building to get to the back of their property. This roadway access doesn't stop them from anything. Whatever the decision is,
The property that's right next to the road on the east side of the road as you're coming into, from 8th Avenue there, who owns that?
Aberdeen Development Corp.
Aberdeen Development Corporation owns that.
And there's no easement on that piece of property for them to drive on, but they've been
I wonder,
doing
do
it.
you think they'll give me a piece of that? You think they'll give me a piece of that? Did they buy that?
Did they dedicate it?
No, did they buy it? Did they own that property and they bought
dedicate it
that?
for public use, though,
No, that's,
previously?
I'm just asking a question,
No, I
Mike, do they,
understand.
can I have a piece of that? Is there any possibility we can do that?
I don't think that's anything any of us know.
Okay, well, I've pretty much voiced my opinion, and I'm sorry, but I'm staying the way I am.
but if we leave it a road, as far as I can see, the county, it's not gonna be put on the county system. The township actually is gonna have to take care of this road, because it's not in the city, so it would be Aberdeen Township that would technically have to maintain this road from here on out, right?
The way I understand it, they would
they're not-
have to accept it, and they have every right to not accept it, is what I was told.
So who's accepted it, though?
Me.
No one.
No, I mean, not,
I was the one that did the work
The
on
HOA was
it.
gonna take care of it when he had his
yeah.
business plan. An HOA was gonna be formed that would take care of that
Yeah.
road.
And
Right
I don't
now,
wanna
he
get
would
into
be-
why or whether, the reasons behind whether or not why that worked out. I'm just saying, that was the plan.
That was the
But that
plan.
didn't come through, so who's accepted it as a road?
Well, Stacy would be
It says,
responsible.
it says nobody right next to the road right now. If you look over there at the, if you look at the plat now, if you look at a copy of the actual plat now, it says nobody.
I mean, this is where like
It's just
where the plat is different than real life, right? You go out there and there is a road there. But it not necessarily means that there's an actual road there unless somebody has taken the road, like it actually,
Well, it's been dedicated for public use. As far as acceptance and responsibility, that's something that's gonna be determined, and there's gonna be future development that's gonna impact that. But the point is, regardless of all the rest of this, there's a platted piece of property that's been dedicated for public use, and there's a legitimate public use for that platted piece of property, and it should stay that way. Period. Regardless of the rest of the information here.
Go ahead, Robin.
The question about the maintenance of it, yeah, that's a good question. And had I known that we had agreed back in '93, I guess I really hadn't looked at these agreements until some of the stuff was coming up. Had I known, we'd be in there blading it because we had agreed to do it 30-some years ago. If that road needs to be touched up and bladed, we would certainly do it. I would not expect the township to have to do that because they had not agreed to that back at that time. This was kind of a side deal that was, Fran Brink and the Development Corporation, Jim Behringer, did a lot of these deals to make things happen in town, and it was just before my starting. So if it needs to be touched up, I guess the city would be on the hook to do it.
And aside from that, we have conversations and agreements, and there continue to be conversations about who's gonna be responsible for specific pieces of roadway that we jointly have some
Right.
responsibility for.
Right.
So it's not that uncommon.
Right, and we could, you know, we have talked about those specific deals, and we'll deal with that here in the near future, so.
So my question, Ross, is if we vote to not vacate this plat, what are we left with? The way it is right now?
Correct.
The current status? Does that include a dedicated right of way?
Does it, well, it's been dedicated, it's not accepted.
Okay. Okay.
If it hasn't been accepted, can I take my dedication back?
I guess that's a question for us today.
So there's a couple housekeeping things here. So the grant of the petition, if after hearing, which is what we're having right now, the board determines that granting will not abridge or destroy any of the rights and privileges of other proprietors, so that's the first question we need to answer. And will not authorize the closing or obstruction of any public highway. Well, we're talking about a right-of-way, not a highway, so that's enough. The board may vacate the plat specified in the petition. So it's still discretionary, even if both of those things aren't true.
Okay.
And I bring that up because I have to draft a findings that gets recorded.
Can you read the very first part of that again, please?
If the board determines that the granting of the petition will not abridge or destroy any of the rights and privileges of other proprietors of such plat.
Including the public. Whoever that is.
Including the public, not just the adjoining
I've
landowners?
got a definition of proprietor here. It's basically anybody with
Interest.
an interest in it.
That could include the public if they would have an interest for using that road.
That's a question for a judge, not for
Yep.
the state's attorney.
Job security for attorney. Okay. Any further questions, comments? Question before us is,
I'll make one more statement, and I'm gonna say this one more time. I'm not gonna go over there and close that road off. They can keep it, we'll keep it just like it is now. I just want it back to me. They haven't done anything over there. I've been the one doing the road grading and all the other stuff over there, and the weed spraying and everything so far. I don't need their help. I'll do it myself. I don't need you to help me. Other than that, that's all I got to say. I've pretty much told everybody in here, nobody's being landlocked. I bought it that way. There's proof right here. All of your stuff that you've got wrote down on there as far as like your, easement on the road and everything else, it stops. You can tell it stops right when it gets to my property line. It goes right over to the creek. That's the way it is. The only thing that we've got is my dedication, and there's gonna be stuff talked about that later, not here, of course, but that's all I got to say.
are we ready to take action?
And I guess,
Go ahead.
thank you. My thoughts on it is, I would like to see an easement put in place, or at least having a conversation about that beyond what we just had
I
today.
got no problem with that. Like I told you, I mean, I'm not gonna be the one, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanna let you know, and I'm letting everybody in this room know. I got no problem with it, but I'm not gonna sit there and own that piece of property. The property that I bought over there is no longer, I don't look at it the same way anymore. I mean, it's my dream is gone. You know, I mean, so I'm not gonna keep it. I am gonna sell it. I can't promise you what anybody else is gonna do with it.
And that's fine. I mean, obviously, there's situations for you that were unfortunate with that.
Yeah.
You know, and we can't change that today, but I'd feel more comfortable having an easement in place prior to vacating the plat. And that's just kind of where I'm at. I'd like to see that easement put in place. That'd be a conversation we'd have to see if you're willing, or what the agreement looks like.
I don't even wanna talk about something like that right now. I want it to go back to the way it was. And then if we can go back to the way it was, then I'll sit down at the table with you folks right here, and I got no problem with people sitting at this table.
I think the one thing we might disagree on is the order in which the easement gets put on, before or after this. I mean, you prefer it gets vacated and then the easement goes on. I'd probably prefer the easement goes on and then the plat gets vacated. So just so you know where I'm at, that's kind of my thoughts. And I don't mean to get into an
Well,
argument with you before.
That's fine.
It's just-
You guys, it's your
yeah.
job to do what you gotta do. You guys are the ones sitting at the table, I'm not. Just let it be known that, if I don't get the road back, here's my 30-day notice. I'm not gonna accept it, so.
You have something, Mike?
Yeah, I'm just curious, if it reverts back, it's vacated, and going along with what Mr. Bobzien said, wouldn't the easement be in place then? Because what the city's argument, I'm not saying that we have to decide this, but the city's argument is there was an easement up until the point where it went in as a dedicated road. So if we revert it back to that would be for them and Stacy to figure out in
That's the whole
court
thing.
where that should be decided, whether that easement is
There's so many gray
in
areas
place
on
or not,
this.
because I mean, you
know what I
can kind of
mean?
argue both sides of that, even in this room it's been argued, whether or not
I think
the
at best you're
easement
on-
has been, you know, I'm not saying either direction, I mean, it could be an argument made either direction on that.
And I think you're on shaky legal ground either way, whether there is or isn't. And I guess my
That's just
preference
it.
would be that there's a solid easement in place that's, you know, drafted correctly and it's very clear as to what it is, what it isn't, who takes care of it, you know, and so that's
Like I
my
say, I
thought.
think
is that we get the
personally,
easement in it.
Even if we vacate it today, I don't 100% know if, I mean, I think there's standing, not from us, because it's either way, but whether or not the road can be just taken out. I don't know if it can be or not, because of where it's at, and on that.
The way it's platted now with a dedicated easement makes it crystal clear what's what.
Right.
Yeah, but then you gotta get in the argument of, yeah, his idea was to develop it, and because of that, you have to put a road
That's got
in.
nothing to do with it.
But
But if you
Piece of
decide
property
not to, we don't ever go
This-
back?
This
Once
piece
it's-
of property was dedicated for public use, and it has legitimate use for the public. From a 90,000 foot view, it was dedicated for that purpose, and I'm sorry for all of the rest of the ownership around it. I think it should stay that way, period. And I'll make that motion.
Are you, excuse me, if you don't mind me asking, are you voting on this?
You want? Yes.
Is there, aren't you on the Aberdeen Development Corporation? I mean, you still get to vote?
No,
No.
I'm a representative of the county on the other, the Development Corporation. I'm not a voting member.
All right, I'll take your vote, yeah, no problem, that's all I want to know.
No, I don't have a conflict of
Okay,
interest.
no problem.
Okay, so repeat your motion, Mike. Your motion is to,
Deny the vacation of the plat. And the finding of fact is the public right-of-way for a road has been dedicated and has been that way for 2 years. And there's public interest for it to stay that way, and that's my position.
yeah, we have a motion by Commissioner Weiss. Is there a second?
And I'm sorry, Stacy, this is not anything personal by any stretch of the imagination.
I'll second it.
We have a second by Dinger. Any further conversation? Questions, comments? We ready to vote? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, we have a 4-to-1 vote.
Here's my notice to appeal.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Aaron Wahlberg, Veteran Service Officer, the Legislative and Department Update. Good morning, Aaron.
Well, good morning, Chief. Full house.
You're late.
I'm late. I'm gonna be a lot easier than the last one.
Good morning.
Morning, how are you guys?
Good, thank you.
They're taking away the money and you're gonna be easy? This is gonna be
Well,
interesting.
I mean, they're not gonna take a lot of it, man. So,
Some.
so legislative season's upon us. I know a couple of you guys have been out there before and seen how that circus works. And every year there's always new ideas. There's a couple of proposals out there that I think are a little bit troublesome, in my opinion, having been doing this for 11 years. The first one is in the governor's budget, they're looking at getting rid of the salary supplement for VSOs. Now, I think it's been suspended previously a time or two, but this time they're trying to take it from statute. So they're trying to remove it. And so what's a salary supplement mean? According to statute, if you pay, I think it's $19,250 a year, then the state will reimburse the county, I think $4,800 roughly, to help, with those salaries. And they want to remove it from statute. That's what the goal is. They're trying to cut a bunch of spending this year. The other one that's out there right now was kind of a pet project of mine for a couple of years, and that's the headstone setting fee reimbursement. And so like when a veteran passes away, they get buried in a private cemetery, the government provides a headstone to that veteran and for their family. The state helps offset the cost of putting that marker in. And we got that raised to $200 a couple of years ago. I think in '23 is when that took effect.
200?
200, yep. So for years, the state, once you get the headstone, the veteran marker set, take pictures of it, send in, the state would reimburse the family $100, whoever paid to have it put in. We got it raised to $200 in '23, and the total cost in FY '24 on the headstone reimbursement was only $46,700. So you're not cutting a ton of money out of that budget by getting rid of that program. I can tell you that $200 does not seem like a lot, but when you have families that are struggling and you see the cost of putting a headstone in anymore and all that, it makes a huge difference. I can tell you that there's been more than one example where if the headstone wasn't covered by the government because the service, the person that passed away was a veteran and the $200 wasn't there, it would have been next to impossible for that family to put a monument down and memorialize that loved one. So that headstone setting fee was a little bit of a pet project of mine for, like I said, a couple of years. I know I talked with you at one point about it, and then we got it pushed to in '23. So that's what they're looking at getting rid of.
Are they trying to take that all the way to zero?
Yeah. Like they want to get rid of it.
Do away with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then they want to remove the salary supplement from statute, so there'd be no requirement at all for the state to do that. Those are the two big ones that are out there in terms of veteran stuff. I did get a phone call from a legislator this weekend and kind of got a heads up on something else that's potentially coming down the pike. I went through and was looking through the proposals this morning, and I talked to somebody out at state about it too, but Senator Dybert's got a proposal out there, it looks like, where they're trying to change statute on 33A-122, I believe it is, where it says counties basically must employ a VSO, and it changes that verbiage to may, which that would be very concerning if that got pushed through. And I think this stems from the last handful of years. There's been some contention with counties combining and doing all that, and I get it, right? Trying to make sure there's coverage, because some of these counties are pretty rural now, and veteran population is going down.
Some are sharing.
And they are, and that's one of the things that they made legal, right? You can share a VSO. It happens all over the place. And then last year they passed it to where you can contract with the State Department of Veterans Affairs to ensure you have VSO coverage. But if he changes that from shall employ to may, then there's going to be counties that there'd be no legal recourse. You could come in here and be like, Aaron, you did great, but pack your stuff because we don't need you anymore. And that's a big concern, And I don't think it'd be beneficial for any of the counties to just get rid of VSOs. I mean, some counties, like I said, their veteran population is very low. They don't do tons of work, but we're not like a regionalized VSO office, but we get people from way outside of Brown County that come in here. I don't know what the fix is to that. I just don't think that would be very beneficial for the veterans or anybody if you change the verbiage there. I'll do some more digging on that too. I talked with Audrey out there and stuff today, but it's floating around. I've seen it.
So the current language is will rather than may.
Yep.
And that would require a county to at least provide some type of VSO, whether they partner with a neighboring county or regionalize or whatever, but it does require the county to provide.
Yeah, 33A-1-22, the statute right now says each county in the state shall employ, and they're striking shall employ and putting in may. And so that would, and I don't know if the intention there is to try and make it easier, because if you read through it, it talks about joining counties and sharing VSO as a contract with the state. I certainly get that, but if you change that shall to may, there's not much legal recourse if you said we don't want to have one anymore. So those are the big legislative issues. There's really not a whole lot out there that I've seen so far been brought to my attention regarding veteran issues. I mean, headstone setting fee is a big one, I think, because it does make it a lot easier for families to put a marker in for a loved one.
They're usually fairly basic and not terribly expensive, but that will cover a significant amount of the cost.
It does, it's about half.
Yeah.
It covers about half the cost of putting it in, once it's all done.
So it's an incentive for families to
Yeah.
go ahead and get it done as
Yeah.
opposed to just letting it go.
Yeah, and like I said, the state expenditures on the headstone setting fee last year was 46.7, so it's not like it's a huge chunk of money.
Mhm.
No, and the year before it was only 34,200, and then '23 is when we doubled it, right, it was from 100 to 200, so it's a pretty small nibble in that budget out there. But it is an impactful one, I can attest to that.
Do you know how many counties share a VSO?
Top of my head right now, no, I don't.
Is it a fairly large number? or-
There's a few, I mean, you got some offices that run 3 or 4 counties now.
Okay.
And then you have some counties that are kind of sharing a VSO, but total number right now, off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Just some of a handful of the smallest counties do.
Yeah, I mean, you got the guy down in Mitchell, I think they have 3 or 4 different counties that
Oh.
run through the Davison County office.
Okay.
Gerald, Davison, Washington.
I was just curious too, because when they're talking about switching the language from, must to may, if you already can share the cost with somebody else, that definitely can help save money if you're looking to do something like that anyway. So I don't know that this would really be needed if you can already split it up the way it is.
Right, but if they also get rid of that salary supplement, is it really,
Oh, sure.
so I don't know how that would impact that either.
I believe there's some of the smaller counties that they have VSOs that also have other job responsibilities, but it's not something you just say, okay, I'll do that too.
Yeah.
There's specific training and skill
Yeah,
sets that you have to
there was a
have.
couple places where the VSO was also the EM, emergency manager.
Okay.
Brookings used to be VSO/welfare, but they split that now, the VSO just does dedicated VSO work. And so most of those over the years have kind of gotten whittled out to where you're just doing VSO work. But, and it's a little concerning, having been out to Pier a lot in the last 6-7 years. I know there was talk last year about like regionalization and stuff like that. I don't think it's a horrible idea to a point, especially if you can save some money and ensure that there's still VSOs out there. Because like I said, we get veterans that come in here from, Edmonds and McPherson and pretty much any county that touches us. North Dakota guys come down here. I mean, our veteran population in Brown County, according to VA, is 2,047. I got 3,500 files on my computer right now of veterans. So, we stay pretty busy. We go way beyond Brown County.
Right.
Yep. Any question on the legislative stuff?
No.
Shoot me a message, for when something's come up for hearing. I can take a look and see who
Sure.
the committee
Thank you,
members
Robert.
are.
Thank you.
Yep, and I'll look into that too. I got some guys up there I'm talking to, but just kind of maybe a couple highlights too, like with the office. Like I said, our veteran population is 2,047 on the last GDX report, which 24 hasn't come out yet. That won't come out till usually March, April. But total revenue generated for Brown County through VA stuff last GDX report's $28,600,000. It's a pretty good number.
Yeah.
It is a big number. And so, a good portion of that is what comes through that office. Kind of puts into perspective. I don't think, not necessarily you folks, but there's a lot of people I don't think understand really the work that goes through there and what it does, right?
A lot of veterans that have access or could or should have access to benefits and just have never exercised that because they haven't needed to. And it does show itself when we do have applications for care of the poor, welfare, those kinds of things. Working with your office to verify, if there are benefits through veteran services, that we make sure that they get them properly qualified for that, which is to their benefit as well as everyone else's.
Yeah, and I think, we do a lot of outreach through the office. At least once a month we're out doing something. At least once a month, we do Veterans Coffee every month, and this time of year you're not going to have 50, 60 guys there because a lot of them go somewhere warmer. But, we've been running, after COVID and everything, it's generally around that 50 veterans come to Veterans Coffee every month. And it's a great place where we get a chance to get out.
And that is where and when?
It's the first Wednesday of every month at the senior center. And no, Mike, you do not have to be a senior to attend.
So I know,
all veterans.
I'm just saying so everybody knows
He's
where and when
Yeah,
that
he's
happens.
close on that.
No, so we do it at the senior center, and they let us do it in there. And it's really a great opportunity to keep veterans informed, because I'll tell you one thing, if you talk to one veteran, he talks to 2 or 3 more, because they have their own little separate coffee groups somewhere here and there. And so it's a great place to put some information out, try and keep the veterans around here aware of some of the changes, and there's a lot of potential stuff coming down with VA that needs fixed, and, I mean, I could drone on and on about the inefficiencies there, but I won't, but, we do that. And it's really nice. We get a lot of guys that come in because they talk to so-and-so who was at coffee, and now they wanna look at, you know, are they eligible for benefits and stuff, and it's just a great opportunity, and we get a lot of veterans that come in that didn't think because somebody told them that once before they weren't eligible or whatever, and now they're getting health care, or maybe they're getting some compensation, you know. If you've looked at the cost of health care lately, it's crazy.
Yep.
It's crazy, so it's a really good opportunity we have there. Currently, right now, just for Brown County through my office, I think we have 720 active payments going on out of the 2,047 veterans that were assigned, according to VA numbers, so I feel pretty good about that number percentage-wise, of the number of veterans that we have that we've taken care of. Last year, in terms of claims, we were a little bit down. I mean, in '23, I think we did 400 and some claims or something like that, but the PAC debt did come out, so there was a lot of people coming in asking and inquiring about benefits there. And I think we're in the 220 range for '24. That's new stuff, right? So about 720 active claims running, so it's been good. I mean, the revenue generation's good there. The numbers are good. Looking at a little more outreach, you know, trying to get out to some of these rural communities again. We go around and talk to a lot of the legions and VFW groups throughout the county and different places too. So just trying to make sure everybody's aware of what's out there, because it's ever changing. I mean, if you've dealt with the federal government, there's nothing consistent there.
It's a moving target.
It is. So just doing what we can to make sure people know what's out there, and try and get as many veterans taken care of as we can.
Good. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Any questions of me on any of that?
Nope, we appreciate the
Okay.
update. Keep us posted if anything, you know, they're only 4 days in Pierce, so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anything can happen.
I'm sure some stuff will happen, but I'll keep you up to date on that
Okay.
stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Next up, Brian Cohen's Brown County Coroner. Approve the purchase of a different coroner van. Good morning, Brian.
Hi, I wanted to discuss with you, the importance of trying to upgrade the van. I have made you a couple of photos, and a purchase agreement is attached to that as well. And, I realize that it's not a line item in my budget, but I do feel that it's necessary. If you look through the pictures, I just want something that looks a little more professional, for the decedents, just out of respect for them and their family. And then also, obviously, something that would be a little more reliable if I were to have to, drive for an autopsy, an extended drive or whatever. I know that I've taken one with the current van that we have, and the check engine light flashed a couple of times, and I thought, oh boy, I don't wanna be stuck on the interstate, you know, me and my friend, you know, on the way to an autopsy and everything, so, you know, it would've been a difficult situation. So, the current vehicle is a 2005 cargo van, and it's got 120,000 miles. And so, you can see the purchase agreement that I've got, for the vehicle that I'm looking at getting.
Just so you know, I tried to arrange for those, your friends to be flown places, but that didn't work out.
Need a motion?
We do.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gaze to approve the purchase of an upgraded coroner's van. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for looking into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, Brian.
Yep, have a great day.
Next up, Gene Lechke, Director of Equalization, with his 2025 assessment plan. Good morning, Gene.
Morning.
Morning.
You try and get it right this time?
We'll try.
You got him. Just taking on him.
Yeah.
I printed mine off, and unfortunately I left it at home, so thank you.
I think I've sent you all this stuff prior.
Definitely.
I believe you've seen, read something, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
First part's pretty boring, so we don't worry about it too much. One of the things that we want to make sure we are aware of as assessments go out is that we did update our cost manual in 2024. We put a new cost, had used 2020s prior. So 2024 cost manual is about 35% higher than 2020's replacement cost manual, just due to inflation and what have you. So right now, every property's been re-established with the new base cost, so we of course have to adjust to make that match the market or whatever, but what that means is if you're in a neighborhood that say has gone up 8%, that doesn't mean every house has gone up 8%. It might mean some have gone up 4, some have gone up 14, whatever, because we've readjusted the base. So we do have some areas that, we know did go up specific percentages, but don't go looking at your neighbor and say, mine went up 4, how come yours went up, 10, or the other way around, just because we did replace cost manuals and the cost base. So that's one of the things that is gonna come into play, and we'll hear about in our office, because people compare.
So you get a new base, but from the 2020, you have made adjustments anticipating
Sure.
what the increases have been, but it doesn't necessarily.
Every year we have to make adjustments to match the market. So 2020's cost, we're getting an additional, whatever it was, 15 or 18 or 20% on them to get to what the market is. So now when we get to 2024's base, we probably have to adjust down to match up, make the 2 years marry.
Right.
But we still have to be at market value.
So you've been chasing it, but you don't know what it's gonna be until it actually comes
Right.
up, and you've got the update
Right.
now, and so that's what
Right.
you're applying.
So, yep, so, in the most, so easy synopsis here, or whatever, we'll look at how the county's gonna change. Our the county overall is gonna go up about 9%. That's what we're looking at from last year to this year. New assessments coming out are gonna be at about 6.37 billion assessed value for 2025. As I'm going through right now, ag's gonna go up about 9, owner occupied about 8.2, non-ag other about 9.2. So everything's kinda gonna go up fairly similar within classes too. A lot of years, our owner occupied's gone up at a larger rate than ag or whatever there is, but this year is gonna be one of our largest ag increases since productivity has reached full scale. So, being everything's gonna go up about 9% or so, the shift shouldn't be too bad. There's gonna be some changes within each class. Our owner occupied going up 8%, but we've got much within that class. We're gonna see our small acreages, our rural residential go up considerably more, maybe double-digit increases. And we're gonna see our lake value go up quite a bit, particularly Elm Lake this year. That seems to be a market that has kind of taken off in the last couple of years, more so yet than Richmond. And I think maybe we're seeing some of the case where Richmond Lake come to a price where people kind of getting price out of that and moving on to the Elm, and we're seeing the Elm Lake starting to take some big bumps.
That's reflected in the desirability factor when you
Sure.
make the
Sure.
adjustments, yeah.
And a lot of new stuff going on at the Elm. The Thorpe addition south of the bridge is fairly new. A lot of new houses there that have sold since being built, and we've seen that market take off pretty good on those newer houses right there. Most of those houses south of the bridge are probably less than 10 years old. We're going to see some legislation come up. There's a summer study this summer regarding how assessments were done. Hopefully we don't do anything with how assessments are done. I'd still like to assess property at what it's worth. Currently there's two bills out there regarding equalization, one being House Bill 1017. That's one that's talking about raising sales tax to 5%, and that additional sales tax percentage is going to eliminate the owner-occupied general levy. That's as far as my office is concerned, I got no problem with that, because that doesn't do anything to assessments. I still assess property at full value, and that just is, part of our auditor's friends has to deal with how the levies get taken care of there.
Not my problem.
And that too, you
Roll
know,
downhill.
it's still general, on the owner occupied goes from whatever it is, 2.8, something like that, to 0. I mean, that's the only thing that I'd be looking at. And, or again, it'd give a benefit to owner occupied, takes the burden off of anything that we have to do at our office, and we can still be assessing at 85% full and true. Another one that's come up so far is Senate Bill 50. Mike asked me about that one, about not allowing drones. No assessors use drones. Brown County's not going to worry about that. We don't use drones. There's Google Earth, Bing Maps. There's all kinds of aerial photography to see what you need to see. Might be an issue out in the hills or whatever, but you know, we really have tried to make a point of not appearing to be too intrusive. And you know, you still want to be thorough, but still don't want people to think that I'm, you know, hounding them around their back or looking in their house or out in their windows or whatever. And I think we've gotten to be pretty good at that in our office. 35 years ago when I started, if you had a clipboard, you could walk wherever you wanted to, and that's not the case anymore. People are pretty hesitant about letting you see what's going on. So that's kind of what I have here. The other thing we're talking about, I know there's a lot of discussion about owner-occupied property. There's going to be legislation on owner-occupied property, and I think, considering that the market's gone the way it has, owner-occupied and non-ag properties increased in value pretty substantially, especially since COVID, since 2021. But if you look at the history of Brown County, and Brown County is a good example because we got a big town and we got 1 million acres of ag land. So we have a pretty good dispersal of what is owner-occupied, what is non-ag, and we got a lot of value of ag land. When owner-occupied started in 2010, when productivity started in 2010, Brown County, 47.59% of Brown County's value was an owner-occupied value. Ag land was at 28.18%. From there, the shift started. Ag land, until it reached productivity, could increase 25% a year until it reached productivity. And when we did finally reach full productivity in 2017, our ag land was at 46% of our assessed value in the county. Owner-occupied had dropped down to 35%. And actually, there were a few years there where we saw owner-occupied taxes on individual properties actually come down from the year prior. As ags reach full productivity and the increases have slowed down, we are starting to see the shift come back again. And as in 2024, owner-occupied is up to 43.14% of the county, almost getting closer to where it was when we started at 47. Ag has fallen back down to 35%, but still more than it was in when we started in 2010. And like I said, Brown County is a good example. Most counties don't have this kind of disparity or dispersion between, comparison between non-ag and owner-occupied and ag, because they're, either 90% ag out in Zibat County or 90% non-ag like in Sioux Falls. So, we're a good county to see the shift actually take place. But, so that's where we're looking at, hearing a lot of stuff, especially coming out from the hills regarding some owner-occupied assessment caps, things like that. I'm expecting to see some legislation come out. I know Senator Halls down there, I believe, has got some stuff going on. And
that's attractive and very dangerous.
And yes, so we'll see what happens from there.
Shades of the old Y and Z that we had that got us into the ag-ish decades ago.
And that'd be similar to one thing about I don't know how many opinions I need to express, but
we can do that. You can talk to the facts. I'll do the opinion. But
one of them we're talking about with I know it's going to come up, and it was Senate Bill 167, I believe, last year, talked about capping owner-occupied property at 3% increases, and then assessing new construction or new sales at their sale price, which is fine. I guess that's what that is. We look 15 years from now, when my granddaughter's 25 years old and buying her first house, she's going to be the one paying the highest taxes in her neighborhood. And I hope we don't come to that point.
On that note, it's funny you bring that up, because there were so many times where a bill similar to what you talked about got introduced, and I'd always say, guys, the pie stays the same size. They never tried to change the size of the pie, they always tried to change the size of the slices inside the pie.
Yeah.
And I really think if they want to make something happen, they need to change the slice of the pie, rather than
The size of the pie rather than
the
the slice.
slice of the pie. So just, I wanted to say that, 'cause it's funny how many bills come that are just trying to slice and dice and, cut somebody's taxes to raise somebody else's. But at the end of the day, if they're trying to address property taxes, I think the size of the overall pie is what they need to worry about. But that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to throw that in.
Well, the conversation that you had earlier about the percentage of burden in Brown County for ag clearly demonstrates that when we went to this rate runner difference productivity and then the phase-in portion of that to get it to, full and true based on that assessment, this is, within Brown County, but the bigger picture is within the state. The total burden on that class of property was the same, but it significantly shifted which counties within the state had that burden. It significantly shift a bunch of it to Brown County and several other counties that have a significant amount of productive ag land. That, with the Revenue Department who's left there now has not been there long enough to say, oh, no, anything you do is gonna significantly shift. It's like, this was a significant shift, and nobody wants to go back and recognize that it's changed the landscape considerably, right, wrong, or indifferent. So it's very interesting, but no, the caps are something that's a very dangerous and a perfect example, I guess, if you will, perfect or imperfect. They did pass Prop 13 in California more than a decade ago, and that, at that point in time, it was called the new movers tax. If you're here, you kind of stabilize where you're at as inflation pushes things up. And it was interesting, unfortunately for the devastation of the fires and so forth, part of the conversation is if those people can replace their homes, if they don't do it in less than 2 years. If they do it under 2 years, they'll be able to maintain their capped assessment notices. But if it takes more than 2 years to replace it, then it comes back in at the new, which is multiplier of many times over what their property tax burden is. And so nobody likes property taxes, right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's complicates things and it begs the fairness issue big time when you start doing that. But putting caps on those values reminds me very much of the Y and Z days, and that's what got us into the issue with ag land, is we were capping the top end of the higher sales. Well, if you take out, one end or the other, your median is going to get messed up, and it's going to come, crashing down at some point.
There's always those discussions on fairness and what is fair, and if
Right.
you're trying to help somebody out, you just end up hurting somebody else.
Yeah.
And
a number of exemptions, I'm a senior, I'll be able to freeze the property taxes on my house, let's do that. Hey, yay. Somebody's gotta pick it up, you're absolutely right.
Yep.
Kind of pretty much what I got. Did give you an assortment of what each small town in the county is gonna do. Aberdeen overall is looking at moving about 7%, Claremont 8%, Columbia about 6%. Our smaller towns farther away, seem like our small acreage is farther away, seem to be carrying a lot of value and starting to get,
Catching up.
Got it, yep.
Did they put up a new building in Verdon?
I'd say yes.
Well, I'm looking at it,
There's a big jump in there.
36%.
That's just looking at last year compared to this year. Yes, there's some things there.
New construction?
Put up another building.
Another, just a building,
building,
kind of do that. But, looking at, Heckler, Frederick, some of those kind of things farther away starting to be the ones that seem to be having are not as strong as the other markets, but seem to be getting stronger faster. So, and we're seeing assessments kind of catch up that way.
Well, it's not just in Brown County, there's plenty of our surrounding counties that have got older properties that have, sat for a considerable amount of time, that you hear story after story where, they're being bought up by people from out of state, sight unseen.
Sure.
And moving here.
Stuff up north, Heckler, Frederick, that's good hunting around.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably, some of that slowed up a little bit in the last year or so, because that was obviously after, COVID, that was the craze.
Yeah.
And then the important part to remember here too is, you know, that this is the assessment. But there's a limit on what the taxes are gonna be, so it's gonna be, you know,
3%
spread.
plus growth. We're gonna have a pretty good growth year. We have, AGP coming off of their discretionary, after 5-year discretionary, that's come on at full value. And we have 2 TIFs that are closed that can be growth. There's about, probably about a little over $60 million that AGP is gonna come on as growth. And between the 2 TIFs, there's gonna be about another 30 million come on as growth there. Going back to ag properties, our soil survey was done in 1988, and there've been some different times where we've looked at, there are gonna be different soil surveys. At this point, we were making a little over 14,000 adjustments on over 14,000 parcels. On the old soil survey, we've come to a point where I think our ag property owners out there are starting to agree with or come to realize that we're treating them fairly and doing okay with that. We're getting along with all our townships, we're getting along with the county, we're not getting any appeals. I think we're at a spot where I think everybody's fairly satisfied with how ag land's being assessed, and we're 16 years into it. We've been doing 16 years of adjustments as we need to, and I think our townships and us have come to a point where we're working together pretty well with that.
Well, the communications is really good, and the townships take an active role in that appropriately, and looking at that, and I've said and maintained for a long time at this, what little I do know about it, is that, you know, those folks know the difference between best and worst in its relationship, and nobody likes paying property taxes and having high values, but as long as that relationship has some semblance of recognition of best to worst in its relationship and how those values are placed, at least it's acceptable. And I think it's important that, you know, the work that you do shows itself, that we try and reflect that appropriately within the statutes as best we can. And it's made a big difference, because it was a mess when I got here 30 years ago.
Alright, I think that's all I have. All right, you're good. Good luck with your plan.
You bet. March 1st, notices go out, phones will start ringing.
All right, thank you, Gene.
Yep.
Good stuff.
I'll take this to
Thanks,
Paul.
All right.
Give them our best.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it for a while.
Just so everyone knows, we lost our internet connection here. We're gonna see if we can get reconnected, but we've lost our online ability for people to join, so we're
Not that interesting anyway, but
there'll be fun stuff to find. Okay, next up, Dirk Rogers, Highway Superintendent. Set dates and authorized publishing for the variety of following bids.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can, yes, Dirk?
Yeah, I lost a video.
Yeah, our internet went down here temporarily for some reason. We're trying to restart it.
I don't really have a heck of a lot. It's, whenever Lynn says we have time to get those in, I just want to recommend that we advertise. That's our usual gravel, road oil, hot mix, and rental equipment.
Today we're just setting the date and authorizing publishing.
Yep.
You need to read through those, Lynn? Or did we wanna just?
you itemize them. You got a date? Pick one.
February 11th would be the opening date.
2/11.
February 11th, okay?
Move.
Motion by Weed, second by Denner. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Anything else, Dirk?
Nope, unless you guys got anything.
Nope, we'll make it simple today for you.
Perfect.
All right.
Don't hold the bat to think too hard.
All right, thanks, Dirk.
You betcha.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar. Lynn?
Approval of the general meeting minutes of January 14th.
Move. Second.
Motion by Gage, second by Weiss. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Claims.
Move.
Motion by Weiss,
Second.
second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Dinger, second by Dennert. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claim assignment?
Move.
Motion by Dennert, second by Weiss. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
2024 sheriff report?
Move.
Motion by Weiss, we'll just take one motion for all 12. Motion by Weiss, second by Gage. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Dinger, I'm sorry.
Dennett.
Oh, Denner.
No, I didn't say it.
Came from this side of the table. Whoever you put down.
Pick one.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Travel request?
Move.
Second.
Motion by Weiss, second by Dinger. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other business come before the Brown County Commission this morning? We apologize for the internet issue. We'll get on that. We've had a request to go into executive session for personnel, legal, and contract.
Yeah. Must be.
Cold weather took the internet out.
Yeah, it did.
Entertain a motion to go into exec.
Move.
Motion by Weiss, second by everybody. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We are in exec. Light is back on. We're out of exec with no action as a result. Anything else to come before the Brown County Commission today?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Denner, second by Weiss to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.